The books come forth. I got that boom, boom, boom. Greetings, programs. It's Hanker and Furnail here. Back once again with another episode of Runehammer. Nice to have you back. Let's jump right into it. Enough of an intro. This is the Lair of Knowledge. Let's talk about books because, as you know, reading is cool. Alright, so kicking it off, we're kind of starting this Runehammer book club. And this is just something where I post up on Twitter and as well on Facebook, and we pick a book and we read it, and then you guys can hit me with your thoughts, and I just wanted to give you mine. So the first one that we did that with is The Black Company by Glenn Cook. Now this book comes up a lot when people are talking about like dark fantasy. This almost every time that like the dark fantasy kind of tag comes up, I hear this book mentioned. So I was getting ready for like, heavy, like, maybe even demonic, satanic overtones, maybe some gory stuff. There's a little bit of that in here. But dark themes. The Black Company is interesting because it isn't that dark as far as its kind of, ominousness. I think Glenn Cook has a very polarizing writing style. I think some people could really get into this. There's several of these books, by the way. So if you like The Black Company, there are a bunch more books. But it's basically told from the point of view of one member of this sort of army unit. And the army unit, because of hook and by crook, they wind up working sort of for the bad guys. They work kind of for the evil side. And the soldier, at the soldier level, they're just trying to deal with this truth. And one of the soldiers is their sort of chronicler, and he writes down what happens. And so they're actually allied with some very unsavory, gross kind of sort of, I think they're called the Taken. They're these kind of like almost monster-like characters, and they're fighting this rebellion, and they're sort of moving through this kingdom from city to city. So, and there's kind of a big battle, and you can figure out the rest if you decide to read it. I love the premise. I actually found it kind of interesting to think inside of an army unit in a fantasy world. That's kind of interesting. But the writing style is extremely stylized in that it's very loose. And what I mean by loose is it just sort of relaxes into letting you fill in a lot of the details. And it just goes into sort of dialogue and then really quick descriptions, and then bang, they're in another city. And it doesn't, get into really pulling at your heartstrings or really giving you like visual, vistas. And there are a few visual moments in the book that I liked. But in general, it's a little bit of a spaghetti kind of, it's a tangled writing style. And I found myself, especially in the first like 50, 75 pages, continually confused about like who was good guys, who was bad guys, who's winning, who's losing, and why, and where they are. I found myself just so confused. Now, as a lot of you have said, this does kind of abate a little bit as you get through the book. You kind of get used to this strange cadence, and it starts to flow a little bit. So if you're into the idea of this kind of army unit in a fantasy world who's sort of fighting for the evil side and all the adventures that can result from that, definitely give it a try. It's just not the kind of fantasy that I really enjoy or I'm used to, which is like very emotional, very epic, very visual. A cool big battle toward the end of the book, and there's some neat moments and some neat visuals about like there's this big ship, this big evil ship, and there's some other stuff, and I don't want to tell you all about it, but I can't say like, boy, if you want to read dark fantasy, this is your guy. I can't quite go that far. It's just an interesting sort of odd take on a fantasy world. It's very sort of dry in its emotional presence, if that makes any sense. So it's interesting. It's worth a try. Maybe look up an excerpt online, and if you're into the excerpt, you'll probably like the book. So that's that one. It would make a cool tabletop campaign, though, to just put your players as members of this army unit, and they're actually fighting for the wrong side, and they are in this dilemma, and like so on and so forth. That's a great premise for an RPG. So anyway, that's The Black Company by Glenn Cook. You know what you thought of The Black Company? I want to be told I'm crazy, and like let's see where it leads, and we'll figure out what we're going to read next. In the Lair of Knowledge, do you even know what the Mind Parasites are, old man? This next one is written in the late 60s by Colin Wilson, and it's called The Mind Parasites. This was actually sent to me in the mail as a gift. From one of you awesome people, I think Mark R. I don't need to say your whole name, but thanks for sending this. It just showed up in my P.O. box. This is a crazy book. What does this have to do with D&D? Well, the book is basically written sort of in the point of the future. So it's in the 2020s somewhere, I think is how I understood it. And they are excavating this Lovecraftian set of ruins. And they're doing it with some high-tech tools and stuff. And in the course of this experience, they begin to unravel this mystery that there are these sort of extra-dimensional creatures that live inside our minds that are actually responsible for the decay of humanity and stuff. And you think this book is going to be sort of philosophical in the beginning. It's very sort of anthropological. It has a lot of like very real sounding book references to other people. And it all is written as if it's very, very real, which I loved. But by the end of the book, it goes completely into like sci-fi crazy land, like spaceships and oh my gosh, it just gets bonzo toward the end and they have like psychic powers and everything and it's just super duper cool. Okay, now we're getting into the RPG stuff. So those were my weird reads. The next one is another book from Mike Evans. So you may remember Mike Evans from DIY Publishing, and he did Hubris, which actually won, I think, a silver Ennie last year for Best Digital Book. And he, like me, uses Drive-Thru-RPG, and we kind of have a little online convo that we've been going through for a year or so now, and so we kind of cordially know each other. We're acquaintances. I like his stuff. I really like his style. I find his style to be very daring, and I like that. So it's outside, to me, what is well-trodden ground in the world of RPGs. Death is the New Pink, and you guys have probably seen and heard of this book. And it has this kind of crazy, like, you know, scratchy, chaotic style to it. And the only color in the book is pink, which at first I was like, I don't know. But when you get through all the illustrations and all the charts and everything, it really does have a cool jam going on. So I do recommend this book, partially because it is affordable, it's on drive-thru, and it's just a really compact little game. And the real reason that I do think this is great for people to read, if you're like in the DIY culture, like I am, like I hope you are, this is like a clinic on a one-person RPG. And I think he had some help with some art and stuff like that. But this feels like a tight little complete RPG with core rules, character creation, monsters, a few adventures, locations, like money, weapons, everything. All in a tight little brief package that you can totally read in a day or two and grok and be ready to play. And also done by one person and published by one person in this form. And I know that a lot of you guys out there, because of the private messages that I receive, are hoping to or working on or struggling with being a sort of a one-man publisher. And Mike does an awesome job at doing this. And it isn't because he's got this infinite capability and he's like the most prolific author in the world. No, it's that he tightly controls how much stuff there is. And Hubris, his other book, was huge. He did this enormous DCC book. This one's very small. And I tell you, this is the kind of fun that brought me to RPGs originally, was sitting down and making a game. And the game and the theme were one, and it was brief and simple and quick, and it's ready to get to the table and we're jamming. Like, the characters here have 3 core stats. It uses really familiar dice mechanics, and honestly, I think it's some of the things that inspired Index Card RPG can be found in here. Well done, Mike Evans, by the way, DIY. Check out Death is the New Pink. Give it a look. Tell me what you think, guys. All right, finally, we have a totally different direction from these kind of, smaller paperback kind of, off-center kind of books. And here we are right in the center of D&D land. So we're definitely at this stage in D&D, in 5th edition right now, where it's time to get some second-tier publishers bringing quality 5e material. So there is these guys called Jetpack 7, and there's also Kobold Press, which a lot of you guys are familiar with. And they're both doing monster books. So the way that Jetpack 7 decided to do their thing, and they come from, they do a lot of the art for WotC as well. They do a lot of the Monster Manual art. And they decided to do their own jam. So the way that they're coming at it is they started with this Gods book. And then there's a link down in the doodly, which will link to their current Kickstarter, which is a monster book, which I'm kind of actually more excited about. But if I know a lot of people have a lot of God kind of themes in their game, and this book is really exquisitely produced. I mean, if you really like large format books that have full page, mega glossy, really well realized artwork. And not only does it have that, and God, this thing smells so good. I also, reading through their gods, the gods have really believable stat blocks. So if you have, level 22 characters who are going to go up against gods, this is a good set of tools. Like, they did a great job. Doing stat blocks on gods is not easy. Because, you get into this kind of like 7,000 hit point kind of thing, right? But they did a great job. And I think this is interesting. But I don't really ever have many gods in my games. I run low fantasy a lot more often. So I'm much more excited about their next book, which is called Masters and Minions. And it's, much more just of a monster, a 5e monster book. So I know that the Kobold Press one is also coming out. So it's like going to be a golden age here of second generation, 5th edition monsters. It's a mouthful. I just thought it was a cool book. It almost made me wish that I could get a group where they could be ready to fight one of these gods so that I could kind of, play a little bit, like experiment with some of this. But you can tell that they have the sort of the high-end production thing like nailed. And it feels damn good. It's just a great book, and it almost smells even better than it looks. Oh man, I love that smell. So there's details down below if you want them. The Lair of Knowledge, man, and only in the daytime. How weird is that? So, since this was a bit of a digression month, for the next Lair of Knowledge, we're going to go all the way in. I think my copy of Trudvang is about to arrive. So we're going to have like 7 books of Trudvang oh my God, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be an RPG Christmas, just like every Christmas. So get out there, give these 4 books a try. If you're interested, I hope this video will help lead you down intellectual paths that you had never imagined possible. Strength, honor, and books. It's Hanker and Furnail. I'm out of here. Instead of leveling up to Fighter level 6, I'm going to multi-class, put in a first level of Bard. I'm going Warhorn. Do I get inspiration?